In a shocking move, the Knicks have re-signed Chuma Okeke to a training camp deal. The reason this is shocking is because the Knicks waived him to make room for the Karl-Anthony Towns deal. But it's also shocking because he wasn't the Knicks' first option. The Knicks' first option refused to sign another deal with the Knicks after being waived in the Karl-Anthony Towns mega deal. We're going to break down all of these following reports and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. The Knicks re-signed Chuma Okeke to a training camp contract. Now, we don't know if it's an Exhibit 9 contract or an Exhibit 10 contract, but what we do know is Leon Rose continues to make moves to help this team get better and move forward. After you lose the depth, after you have to sign Karl-Anthony Towns and lose some players on your team, the best thing for you to do is to go out there and sign the best possible players available. And at 6'7", at forward, Chuma Okeke, a 3-and-D specialist under a head coach like Tom Thibodeau, yes, this is the way I want the Knicks to go. And according to reports from James Edwards of The Athletic, this is exactly the direction the Knicks are headed in. According to The Athletic's James L. Edwards, he gives us the following update. Chuma Okeke will return to the Knicks on a training camp deal after being waived as part of the Karl-Anthony Towns trade. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm happy to see Okeke return because we needed more size going into training camp, and at 6'7", he's going to give you that size. But he wasn't the first option for the Knicks to add back to this roster. Their initial option was trying to bring back Marcus Morris Sr., but unfortunately, when they tried to re-sign him and gave him another training camp invitation, he refused, and he wants to go to find another team he can play for next season. Let's break down those reports as well, too. According to SNY's Ian Bagley, he gives us the following information. According to him, Marcus Morris Sr. declined the camp deal from the Knicks earlier this week. According to The Athletic's James L. Edwards, New York made an offer to Morris after waiving him in order to execute the Cat deal. Morris had a strong chance to make the roster if it weren't for the Cat trade. He's open to joining another team in camp now because he understands if he joins the Knicks today, it's unlikely he's going to find any time with this new roster. Shout out to Bleacher Report for giving us this following information as well, too. The Knicks now have options on the block in Towns, Mitchell Robinson, Precious Achiuwa, and Jericho Sims, while OG Anunoby will operate as the starting four. Morris might have been able to make the roster, but cracking the rotation as a backup four or a small ball center would have been a tougher task. And that's why he did not want to join this roster and is seeking another team elsewhere for next season. I'm a Marcus Morris fan, and I can understand why the Knicks would be. He's tough, he's physical, he's a veteran presence. He can definitely play some small ball five if you need him to. And for a team that needs more size, you can see why they would prefer to get a veteran like Marcus Morris on this team. Because right now, the Knicks are in championship contention. So what do they need more of? Veterans. That's why they're looking to sign and target more veterans. Landry Shamet, even though he's young, he's technically a veteran for how many years he's been in the league. So we have to consider that as well, too. But since the Knicks were not able to land him because Morris refused to deal with the Knicks at this point in time, they had to go another direction. And in a shocking move, they signed Chuma Okeke to a training camp deal. But you know what? I actually like that move. Okeke may not have the experience of a Marcus Morris, but you know what he does have? Youth on his side. He also is coming into camp absolutely focused because he understands this is his time, his chance, his opportunity to make a roster, and he wants to do that. And we have to remember, his specialty is 3-and-D. We need that on this team. Tom Thibodeau needs that on this team. I've said it in a number of videos, and I'll say it again. You can never have too many 3-and-D wing players on your roster. So if you sign this kid and he does well at camp, give him a roster spot. At camp, that's what it's all about. To prove yourself, shine, and take the opportunity. If he does it, I have no problem adding him to this team. But it's going to be about if he can prove it during camp. But if he can make the roster, Tom Thibodeau is going to love him. His defense, his size, his athleticism. Again, he was part of the Magic, a loaded young roster at the time he joined, but now they're young in a different way. The talent that they have is off the charts, and they're already young. That's why the Magic really didn't have any room for him. But you know what? That is something that the Knicks can bank on and take from the Magic, because what they can't use, maybe the Knicks can use. He's a forward. He has size. And for some people who may not understand what this young man can bring to this game if he makes the roster for the Knicks, let me enlighten you a little bit. Shout out to Bleacher Report for giving us this following information. According to them, the reason why Okeke fits the Knicks is his defensive potential. At 6'7", Okeke is the ideal size of a player you want to have on the wing. He can defend multiple positions, and that should please Coach Tom Thibodeau. He likely would have a similar role in New York that he had in Orlando as a situational player when people ahead of him on the depth chart are injured. But his defensive abilities could help the Knicks in a bind if they need someone to defend on the wing. With a skill set like that, it's no wonder why a lot of people, including Tom Thibodeau, would probably want this kid on the roster for training camp. He's competitive. He can push others. There was a video that came out recently showing him in the Knicks training facility, working out, working on his game. And when he took questions and he was asked, why is he with the Knicks? Why is he there at training camp? It's because he wants to work on his game, get back to who he was, always being the player that he was before, which means that 3-and-D specialist. And if he can bring that to camp and show that defense to Tom Thibodeau, it's going to go a long way in his career as being a part of this organization. Because if you can play defense to the level that Tom Thibodeau requires it, and if you can come in, even if it's situational, during times when we need it because a player is out, he's injured, or we have foul trouble, that's exactly what New York needs on their bench. A lot of times, the players there are going to be situational. You think Tom Thibodeau is going to play 11 players? I'm having a hard time believing he's going to play 10 players. I still think it's going to be 9 players, but maybe he expands his rotation at this point in time to 10, given the current roster that they have and the problems at depth that they have at the center position. Anything could happen with Tom Thibodeau. The more we see in training camp, the more we see in preseason, that's going to tell us what's in store for the regular season. But I don't think the Knicks are done yet. I believe they have a few training camp roster spots still remaining. So they can still go out there, look for other bigs, because that, in my opinion, is what they need to add to this training camp roster. They have a lot of forwards. They definitely have a lot of guards, but they don't really have a lot of bigs. They have players that can play a big position like a 4 or a 5, but not really their natural position. If I'm the Knicks, I'm going out there and I'm signing maybe a center or two to add to this training camp roster, so that way I can keep it competitive for Jericho Sims, Precious Achiuwa, and for the newly added Karl Anthony Towns. We need that competition level at camp. And if we can push our bigs in that direction, maybe it all works out for the best for the Knicks as we start the regular season. We're going to need to see a leap from Jericho Sims. We're going to need to see a leap from Precious Achiuwa. And if you're the Knicks, after everything you saw last year, the one thing you want to do is give Thibodeau a reason to use his bench. You want to rest your starters as much as possible, so that way entering the postseason, you are as healthy as possible. And I've already said the way to do this. Reduce the starter minutes by 5 to 7 minutes. Have them play 31 to 32 minutes a night. And then give those additional minutes to your bench and have them play more minutes. And that way you can expand your rotation, give minutes to the bench, and in the process, potentially, depending who those minutes go to, you can develop talent. And that's the most important thing for this team right now. As we already know, after this cat trade, it's not like we can make any more major moves. The roster we have is who we got. So we need to make sure we develop them as best as possible. That means I'm looking at Tyler Kolek. I'm looking at Ariel Huckaporty. I am looking at Kevin McCullough Jr. I'm looking at all these players that we could potentially sign to training camp deals that can earn a roster spot. Chuma Okeke is one of those players. He's still young, 3-and-D, and he can work under Tom Thibodeau. Give Thibodeau players, and he'll rest your starters and play those guys. And in the process, you'll have a healthier unit going into the playoffs. Isn't that what we want? Isn't that what we need? Isn't that what we needed last year in order for us to go all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals? I can tell you one thing. This Knicks team goes into the ECF. I can tell you one thing. This Knicks team goes in this year to the postseason healthy. We are going all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals at the very least. And you already know, at the most, we are winning a championship and breaking the drought. We have the roster in order to do it. We may still need to make a couple of other additions just to shore up our center position. But once that happens, which I believe a move is coming for Mitchell Robinson before the season starts. But let's say that doesn't happen just because Robinson's trade value is at the floor. A move is still going to happen come the trade deadline. Leon Rose will address this matter at some point in time. He's trying to do it now as best as possible. But if he can't, he's not going to spite himself and spite this roster by trying to move on from Mitchell Robinson and add a lot of our core players in the process. If he can't move on from Robinson in an easy deal, he will wait till the trade deadline when there's more players available, and maybe Mitchell Robinson's available at that point in time, and you can utilize him in a deal when he has a little bit more value to showcase around the league. Leon Rose, this front office, they have been making good move after good move. They've been cooking this offseason, so I have to believe each and every move they make after this cat deal is another move to help them continue to cook and get better as a team moving forward. Chuma Okeke and adding him to this roster is part of that. And if he makes the team, best believe you will see at some point in time during the season that 3-and-D specialist play on the court for Tom Thibodeau. But what about you guys? What do you think about these following reports indicating that the Knicks have signed Chuma Okeke to a training camp deal? And what do you feel about Marcus Morris refusing to sign another deal with the Knicks after being waived? Let me know in the comment section below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.